this amazing quote. Be who you are and say what you feel, because those that mind don't matter, and those that matter don't mind.
All right. Here we go. All right, let's get this off the screen. Let's move. How's everyone doing this week? Doing great. End of a 4th of July weekend. Wow, appreciate everyone joining me here. Let me get this down just a little bit. There we go. Yeah, for those of you looking at me going, wow, Green Bay Greg, episode 8. He's wearing a Golden Gopher shirt. That's not like him. It's curling. I used to practice curling with the Golden Gopher Curling Club back when my knees did not feel like I was an 80-year-old a few years back. So yeah, I'm wearing that today. Big deal. Got to support the hometown team. So anyway, we're at episode 8. Want to thank everyone for joining me, whether you're joining me on YouTube, or the RTF Sports Network, the Twin Cities Network, maybe on Twist, the Week in Sports Talk, our parent show, or maybe you're just watching me on Facebook Live right now as I'm doing this, which if you are, fantastic. Send me a message. Tell me how you're doing. Maybe I'll read it. Maybe I won't. Who knows? Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Anyway, here we go. Got done with 4th of July weekend. I hope everyone had a fabulous weekend. My weekend was great. Started off, as you can tell, got my ears lowered. Yes, Mike from Mike on the Mic came over to cut my hair. Came over on Friday night with his twin kids. His kids are amazing. I love it when they come over, and I'm pretty sure that my parents really like it when Mike's twin kids come over too, because as soon as Mike's kids leave, I always call up my parents and apologize because I am a twin, and by extension, at one point, I would have been a 4-year-old twin, and I just have to apologize because I'm sure I was just like them, and they're adorable. Mike's kids are adorable. It's just they do not run out of energy. They have all the energy in the world, and they do not get tired. So that was fun. Had some pizza, things like that. Then just had a nice, relaxing 4th of July holiday weekend. So just want to get into that. The first thing I'm going to get into with that is sports talkers. So over the past few weeks, sports have been kind of tapering back. We've had some golf, we've had some NASCAR, had some MMA. Sports went down at the middle of March, and it all came to this moment, 4th of July weekend. It was the greatest sporting event I've ever seen in my entire life. On July 4th at 11 a.m. Central Time, I witnessed history. The greatest single achievement in the history of sports. You might ask yourself, Green Bay Greg, what did I miss? You didn't miss anything. I'm sure you heard about it. It was the most amazing feat ever, where Joey Jaws Chestnut ate 75 hot dogs with bun in 10 minutes, breaking his previous world record of, I think it was 74 hot dogs and buns in 10 minutes. It was unbelievable. And you know what? He did it without the assistance of an audience. He did it without, the fans in the stands, thousands upon thousands of people cheering him on. He had to do it in the confines, in the bowels of Nathan's famous hot dog eating. Their warehouse is all COVID friendly. They were social distancing. It was the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. So, and the thing is I did some research on this. I had to scout this. I was watching all morning previous years' hot dog eating contests. This man is unbelievable. Back in the day, this is the 104th time they've done this. And years ago, the top was like 13 hot dogs. 13 hot dogs in 10 minutes. Now he's doing 75. His DPM at one point was 11.3. What's DPM, you say? DPM is dogs per minute. He was on a pace of eating 11.3 dogs per minute. If he would have stopped with 5 minutes and 85 seconds to go in the contest, he still would have won. I've never seen an accomplishment like this in sports. So, yeah, and that night I did watch. Excuse me. I'm beside myself. And that night I did watch a recap of the 1980 U.S. hockey team. That comes in second to Joey Jaws Chestnut, down in 75 dogs in 10 minutes. Let's see if we got any comments going on here. Yeah, here we go. Okay, just for the record, here we go. There's Mike on the mic. Look at that haircut. Hopefully, Mike, you joined me on time because I did give you a shout out at the beginning of the show. All right, here we go. Let's go back. Let's get back to this. So anyway, like I said, greatest sports accomplishment I've ever seen in my entire life. Moving on though, so that was his 13th Nathan's Famous Hot Dog Eating Championship in 14 years. I have the same question you do right now too. What happened the year he didn't win it? He's unstoppable. So anyway, moving on. We're going to move on to another topic. Why? Because it was very difficult for me to keep a straight face during that entire thing. It was gluttony. At one point, I got to be honest, there was a funny story. There was one previous hot dog eating championship that I watched, and there was one of the announcers was wearing a raincoat. First glance, I thought, it's raining out? Looks sunny. Nope, she was in the splash zone. Yes, the splash zone, right in front of all the guys eating. Want to protect yourself from all of the, yeah. Anyway, it was disgusting, but gluttony at its finest. So now we're going to move on to You're Better Than That. This segment of the show where I think to myself, someone in the world of sports is either doing or saying something that, you know what, they should just know better. And this revolves around not only the Washington Redskins, and I'll say it because it seems like for a very limited amount of time left, they're going to be changing their name. The Washington Redskins, along with a lot of other teams, are reconsidering the use of Native American nicknames. The Cleveland Indians, Kansas City Chiefs, but right now the top of the totem pole right now is the Washington Redskins, where their owner Daniel Snyder is discussing changing the name of the team. Now, here's the thing: on the surface, you might think to yourself, "Wow, Green Bay, Greg, seems like a no-brainer," and you seem like a pretty progressive guy. You seem like a guy who can understand that if it offends someone, shouldn't do it. Completely agree. However, here's my deal. Let's take another look here. All right. All right. So here's my deal with this. I do not want to become part of a society where people decide for other people what is and what isn't offensive. Here's what I mean. If Native Americans are coming out and saying, you know what, the term Redskins is offensive, then yes, they need to change the name. I agree with that. However, there are some names that people do not find offensive, and they are people of that culture. Here's my example. When this whole thing happened and teams started to really hammer down on the Redskins, they also came down on the Florida State Seminoles. Who didn't they ask? The Seminole Nation. The Seminole Nation actually enjoys it and loves the fact that Florida State uses the name Seminole in their name. Why? Brings awareness to their culture. Gets people asking questions. What did I talk about last week? In fact, what do I talk about every week? Ask questions. So, like I said, what I don't want to become is a society of people who determine for other people what's offensive, what's right and wrong for you. Now, I can come up, being a history major, I can come up with things that are offensive to just about anybody. I mean, I went to a high school where our nickname was the Crusaders. I don't know if anyone's gone far enough back in a history book, but in the 1400s, Crusaders from Western Europe used to go to Eastern Europe, and I'll simplify this. They used to say to people in what's now the Middle East, do you believe in God, in Jesus Christ as your savior? And if someone said no, they would kill them. It was one of the original forms of genocide. So is that offensive? Spartans. Most people think, wow, Spartan warriors. Well, about 2,300 years ago, Spartans were all slave owners. So what are we going to determine is and isn't offensive? Let's let the people who are part of that culture determine if they are offended or not. And here's the other thing, too, to keep in mind. If a term is offensive, yes, I think it needs to be changed. But sometimes people they do actually feel honored by the use of this. I mean, let's be honest. There's no team names out there called the Lazy Weaklings. There's no teams out there called, the Worthless Nobodies. You name teams after strong, intimidating figures, whether they're animals or, old warriors, for example. So my point to this whole thing is, let's just take a step back. if we'll have to deal with this, in my opinion, on a case-by-case level. And I think that's the best way of doing it. So that's just my opinion. That's really what I feel about this whole thing. If it's offensive to the people that's being represented by it, then yes, it needs to be changed. But we need to ask those people. All right, moving on. GBG moment of Zen. So what's been in the news a lot lately is the NBA bubble in Orlando, Florida. Now, what I find fascinating about this is the extent that they're going to with this NBA bubble. Now, there's a document which is like 104 pages long about do's and don'ts of everything that's in this bubble. The media, they had to get there into this bubble area, into their hotels several days ago. They're quarantined into their hotel rooms, where they're allowed to leave their room once a day, to get checked. They have to do their COVID checks. They have to get their temperature taken, but they have their meals brought to them, but they have to pass all of these restrictions for a certain number of days. And they have to wear, I think it's like a green wristband. Green wristband means they got checked in, they're quarantined in their room, they have to wear it at all times. Now, players, once they start arriving, they have to do the same thing. They have to be quarantined for a certain amount of time. And I mean, obviously the restrictions on players are a little bit different than the media. Not only that, but it also depends on how you got to Orlando. Did you take a private jet? Did you drive? Did you fly commercial? Depends on how long you're going to be quarantined. I find it fascinating. Now, here's the other funny thing about this. Let me just do a quick check on. All right. Got some more notes there. All right. So anyway, what I find fascinating about this too is once you've passed the protocol to work inside the bubble but not be quarantined in your room, you have to put on an arm bracelet. What's the arm bracelet do? It actually is going to check for several things. One of them is it's going to check your temperature. If you start to spike a fever, it'll be able to check. It also will have an alarm that will go off if you get within 6 feet of someone else wearing an wrist bracelet. I find it fascinating. Now, is it overkill? I don't know. But like I've been saying on Twist, the Week in Sports Talk, and on this show for several months now, it seems like the NBA is doing the right thing every step of the way. And good for them. You know, is it overkill? Is it not? You know what? Who cares? They're doing whatever it takes to get sports back. And yes, I get it. We're going to have to watch the NBA playoffs and the NBA finals from the comforts of our own living room because, they're not going to allow fans in the stands. You know what? It's a small sacrifice. I find it, fascinating what they're doing and to what extent they're going to actually, get the product out there. And they're also, the other, great thing about it is they're doing all this, in preparation so it doesn't stop. They're not going half-assed at this, Major League Baseball, to have it shut down after a week. They're doing everything they can to go from start, play their 8-10 games, whatever it is, then start up the playoffs. I say good for them, nicely done. So we're going to move on a little bit to outside the arena. As a smooth transition, I'm going to talk about the players from all different sports right now that are opting out of joining in, with their team for whatever reason. I find some reasons fascinating. Someone like Mike, doesn't know if he wants to because of his, family concerns, having a small infant child at home. Anything related, some players, Gordon Hayward, for example, Boston Celtic, he doesn't know if he's going to come back and play or if he's going to go play for a little bit and then leave, and if they'll allow him back in because he's got a child that's due in September. And that would be around the time of, the Eastern Conference Finals, if they make it that far, which they very well might. What I find fascinating about this now, I have 2 kids. A lot of people probably watching this show have had children. I understand it's not like clockwork. You don't, dial a number on the phone and 9 months later you get a baby. I get it. But at some point when Gordon Hayward and his wife found out they were pregnant, they probably looked ahead on the calendar and thought to themselves, this is going to work out great. The basketball season hasn't started yet, and you can be there for the birth of the child and not have to disrupt any of your preseason training or anything like that. Well, then COVID hits. So you know what? I feel bad for him. But in that case, if you're dealing with anything personal like that, I will not hold it against you. And even if I was a fan of your team in basketball, for example, if Giannis said that he felt because of whatever reason, COVID, or maybe he's got a relative or he has asthma or whatever the case is, he doesn't want to play, I'd be okay with that. It would kind of drive me a little bit nuts because I am a fan of the Milwaukee Bucks, and without him, they obviously don't win a championship, but you got to appreciate it. Someone's health is their own concern. So anyway, dealing with that. Now, on the other hand, what I don't want to see are the Kyrie Irvings, the Dwight Howards, all these other guys that are saying that they might not want to play their sport because of racial injustice or social injustice. They want to fight for a cause. You know what? Unless you're Maya Moore, and you're not, by the way, there's only one Maya Moore who did what she did and take time off of basketball to fight for a specific person and a specific cause. So she was very, very intentional with her leaving sports. Good for her. You guys aren't her. You guys might opt out of the rest of the season because there's social injustices out there. Well, you know what you are? You're lazy, and you're trying to steal money from your owner. Because if you're healthy, you play. And what do you do with your platform? You speak about how you feel about your about whatever social injustice there is. The NBA has already said that they've allowed the phrase Black Lives Matter to be on the court during the NBA games, during the courts that are within their bubble. They've allowed for a list of phrases to be worn on the jerseys instead of a player's last name on the back of their jersey. And I think that they're deciding right now on whether or not if a team or if a player makes it a certain distance into the playoffs, maybe it's like the conference finals, that they can have their name on the bottom of the jersey and then whatever phrase they're using on the top, whatever phrase they want to promote, whatever social injustice they want to promote. Good for them. But the Kyrie Irvings of the world, Dwight Howard, whoever it is that's saying, I don't want to play because there's too much social injustice out there. Dude, you're missing the point. Use this platform, use this opportunity as a place to speak about it. Give your side of it and let the Green Bay Gregs of the world and everyone else out there decide for themselves if we agree with your stance or LeBron James's stance or anyone else's stance on whatever issue it is. That's the point. You sound like, a guy who puts on a blindfold before trying to give a driving test. It's not the best way to promote your cause. If you want to promote your cause, use the platform you were given. Think about the irony of your statement by saying that you don't want to play because there's social injustice. You're probably saying that with a microphone in front of your face. Maybe if you play more microphones will be in front of your face. God. I know. Let's just sit on that one for a second. All right. Anyway, we're going to move on to the GBG challenge. As you all know, let's just do one last check here. See what's going on here. Okay, we got a lot of comments going on here, and I appreciate all of them. And so once again, you can see, maybe you're watching me on YouTube, RTF Sports Network, Twist, The Week in Sports Talk. Maybe you're watching me on Facebook, live on Facebook. Whatever, I really appreciate it. Anyway, we're going to get into the GBG challenge. This one hits home with me because usually what I like to do is during this portion is find an upbeat way to end my show, kind of give people an upbeat way to kind of spend the next couple of days. What I would really ask everyone to do is something simple, something I've been doing for about a month now, maybe a little longer. I wake up every morning and intentionally say to myself, today is going to be the greatest day of my life. It's that simple. I say today is going to be the greatest day of my life. And what happens along the way throughout the course of the day, anything positive that happens to me, it feels like it's about 10 times better. Why? Because today's the greatest day of my life. Now, if anything unfortunate happens to me, I can deal with it. Why? Because nothing all that bad can really happen to me on the greatest day of my life. So it kind of sounds sophomoric and it sounds very immature. However, sometimes I think what we need to do as a society is keep things simple. And if we wake up every morning and say, today is going to be the greatest day of my life, it's amazing all the blessings that you'll see in front of you. I know for a fact I've had the greatest month of my life. Why? Because I knew it was going to happen. Everything that happened to me, I knew was going to be great. And I saw the greatness in all of it. And if I would have gone through any one of those days over the past month, 5 weeks, whatever it was when I started doing this, there was no date attached to it. Whenever I decided to do that, if I would have been ho-hum, in a glum, in a depressive state, head bowing down, not paying attention, not seeing all the greatness around me, I might have missed out on some awesome things that I've been a part of. But what I've been able to do is notice them, notice everything around me. And you know what? I know that there's still things going on out there. I know that we're dealing with a pandemic. I know that we're dealing with injustices that need to be rectified. But you know what I'm also not doing? I'm not finding fictitious things to complain about that aren't part of those things. I'm finding blessings out there. I'm finding things out there that's making life better. Ways that, it's something goes on and I see, the silver lining in it. Something goes on that maybe on a typical date to, Green Bay Greg from 4 years ago might have thought, oh, well. But you know what I see right now? An amazing thing happening. And yes, today is the greatest day of my life. And you know what? Tomorrow's going to be even better. I just know it. Because once you start saying it often enough, you're going to believe it. And that's what I ask everyone to do. Go through your days, every day, one day after another, and just say to yourself, today is the greatest day of my life. And eventually you're going to believe it. And you're going to see all the blessings around you. You're going to see the magic happening. So anyway, I really appreciate everyone being a part of this. Honestly, I do. I know there are comments that I didn't get to. I got some notes here, just a page full of notes with my topics and the subjects on it. And once I get going, I'm like one of Mike's 4-year-old twins. You can't stop me. There's no stopping me until I hit the 23-minute mark. Then I got to go. But I really appreciate everyone being a part of it, whether it was on the RTF Sports Network, on Twist. Check out Mike on the Mic and Benzie's Bit as well. Twist, The Week in Sports Talk on YouTube. Like I said, maybe you're watching me on Facebook. Maybe you're watching me live. Maybe you're replaying it later. Anyway, I really appreciate all of it. Thanks. And until next time, GBG out.